So in the last video, I built a custom design.md file from scratch. I took screenshots from website that I liked and then fed it to Claude and had it reverse engineered design system from those websites. And it worked, but it took a lot of time. We had to provide a lot of screenshots. So after that video was published, I came across a tool called getdesign.md. It has a 66 pre-built design.md file built on top of one of the most well-designed websites like Stripe, Vercel, Figma, websites like that. So in this video, I'm going to try to apply those pre-built design.md file into this landing page, and we'll see how that goes. So this is a landing page for AI agent and skill plugin marketplace. We created this based on the specs that we defined in the last video, and it created this landing page. And then we took a lot of screenshots and created our own design.md file and then applied it to make it look like this. As you can see, it's much better. It looks much cleaner than the first initial version. What I'm going to do is I'm going to update this landing page by getting a design.md file from this get.design.md website. So if we look at this site, it says design system inspiration from popular websites, drop into your project, let coding agent build matching UI. So you basically take the design.md file and then ask your agent to rebuild your project. It says for inspiration. Obviously it's not the final result, as I said in the last video as well. This is like a good base for you to start from somewhere, and then you have to basically improve the design. So they have a lot of websites like Airbnb. They also have 11 labs, which we tried to basically take inspiration from the last video. And they also have other top design websites like Stripe, SpaceX, Vercel. They even have Apple. So if we look into one, you'll see this is the design.md. They also have what is design.md file. So it says the design.md concept was introduced by Google Stitch, which is correct. I also take inspiration from that as well. When I looked at design.md file that was created by Google Stitch, I realized this is something that we could do for our projects as well. And that's why I built my custom design.md file. I will be making a video with Google Stitch in the future, but for now, let's look what it does. So this design file is basically gives you the customized design system that you need for your project. It's saying the problem is tell AI agent to build a landing page and you already know what you get. Rounded cards, purple blue gradient, which is exactly the same what you have right now, like purple gradients, and also logo, written text. So this is very common. It's always average design. We need our own custom design.md file. And Markdown works great with AI agents that they're explaining here, saying because it's a language AI agents speak best, they can read JSON tokens but can't interpret them. They can't see Figma files, imitate a screenshot but won't systemize it. But we did saw in the last video how we can actually systemize this. We'll look into that later in the video. But they're basically trying to make a design.md file based on that. And also they're saying this design.md file, what this design.md file is not. For example, is saying you cannot expect it to contain all your design context and stuff like that. It's just saying it's just an simple instruction, and you still have to do all the hard lifting, like saying there is no code inside, just rules. It describes what a button looks like. You or your agent still build the button. That is the important part, right? You still have to do the main component building yourself or with your agent. And it's not a Figma export. Figma tokens tell you what, but skip why. A design carries the rationale. So it's basically the rationale behind which colors you should use, which spacing should you use. So you used to hire a designer and say, linear, right? Give me the fill. It worked because the designer already carried the reference in their head. That shared context sat underneath every conversation you had with them. It's sort of like telling a mood board saying, yeah, I like this direction of the design. This design.md file gives you that kind of direction. And then it talks about the structure of the design.md file. So they have visual theme and atmosphere. They have color palette and roles, typography rules, component styles, layout principles, depth and elevation, do's and don'ts, responsive behavior, agent prompt guide, a quick reference, color summary, and ready to use component prompt for the agent. And they also explain why this 9 section is important and why this is not random, saying the structure is not random. It mirrors the layers an agent walks through when making an UI decision. Atmosphere answers what should feel like, color answers which color, typography answers which font, which size, component answer what does the element look like, layout answers where does it go, depth answer which layer, boundaries answer what should I avoid, responsive answers what change on small screens, and the prompt guide answers how do I start. So I think the structure is pretty much similar to what we built in the last video. Kind of similar. We have differences. We'll definitely talk about that later, but I think this makes sense. This is how a normal designer would actually do design as well. They'll first define the structure of the design system, and this is exactly what it does as well. So I think that was the high level overview of the what this design.md file is. So I think we can get started. To install it, you basically have to pick the design system that you want to apply on your website. I'm definitely gonna pick 11 Labs. Let me find that. So I'm going to apply the 11 Labs style because, like I said, we tried to do that in the previous video on our landing page so that it looks a little close to 11 Labs. So if you look at the design system, they mostly got the colors correct. They got the color palette, typography scale, button variants, card examples, form elements, spacing scale, border radius, elevation and depth. All you have to do is copy this command, and I'm gonna open this terminal and I'm going to run this. This is where my landing page is. So it's going to install this. Design.md file is installed and it's in design.md. So this is the file. So this is the file that it generated for 11 Labs. So it says 11 Labs website is a study in restrained elegance, a near white canvas where typography and subtle shadows do all the heavy lifting. The design feel like a premium audio product brochure, clean, spacious, confident enough to let the content speak. Literally given 11 Labs makes voice AI. So they went in great detail to basically explain the visual theme atmosphere, and then they also talked about key characteristics, and they talk about the color palettes and roles, shadows, typography rules, and component styles, layout principles like what type of spacing system they should use, grid, border radius, and scale. And they also talked about depth and elevation, and finally do's and don'ts, which I think is just as important, saying use Waldenberg weight 300 for all display headings. The lightness is the brand. Apply positive letter spacing, and on the don'ts you have don't use bold fonts, don't use heavy shadows, don't use cool gray borders, don't skip the inset shadow component, don't introduce brand colors, don't make buttons opaque and heavy. Finally, they also have the responsive behavior, touch targets and collapsing strategy, image behavior, and finally agent prompt guide, how agents should use this design file in the prompts. Now we can basically put it into test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start Claude Code. So I've started Claude Code. Now I'm going to reference this file and ask it to rebuild the landing page so that we can see what this design.md file does to our landing page. So I'm going to do reference this file saying use this file to, so I pressed shift and tab to cycle between different modes. I'm on plan mode because I want to first plan it. Reference the design.md file, and I'm saying use this design file to revamp the design of your our landing page, create necessary components for design consistency, and update existing components with new design system as well. So now it's gonna plan and give us a plan to review. So it created the plan, so let us review the plan. So Skillforge landing page design system overhaul. The current landing page uses a dark violet gradient heavy design. The goal is to transform it into an 11 Labs inspired design, near white canvas, warm undertones, lightweight display typography, multi-layered subtle shadows, pill-shaped buttons. This is a full visual overhaul touching all 25 files while preserving the existing component architecture and data layer. So all of this information are coming from the installed design.md file. And font infrastructure, we have to replace the existing font with plus Jakarta Sans, sort of like display substitute for Waldenberg, because this is I think a paid font, but we don't have the paid font, so it's trying to match with the closest available Google fonts, which is plus Jakarta Sans, which is interesting. And for body it's using Inter, again a Google font, so it should be easy for it to install. And then it's showing the codes that will be used to import these fonts, which is fine, straightforward. Then it's talking about design tokens and utilities on the global.css based on the design.md file again, and UI primitives like button, basically the core components that we need. And then it talks about layout components, section rewrites, the section that it has to rewrite for the landing page, and it's also giving us a summary of all the files that will be changed in order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to auto accept. I think the plan looks correct, and I'm going to let Claude take a swing to update our landing page. So Claude is done generating the codes for our new design based on the design.md file that we installed from getdesign.md. So this is our original design, the first version that Claude generated based on our product specification. and this is the updated design based on the design.md file that we installed from getdesign.md. In here you see it's much cleaner, and I would say it looks really good. So let's see each of the section. So this is the hero section. It redesigned the hero section from this to this. You see the color and the shadows and elevation level, everything is very consistent with the design that from the design.md file. So if you look at the design.md file, you can see the color palette here, and you can see the color palette in this product screenshot itself is really good. So I think on the hero section it did a good job. Definitely you can do much better. Like, this is the design that we did on our custom.design.md file on the previous video, but I think this is much better than the original version. So if you look at the next section, these badges are looking nice as well. So this was the original badge. I think they're sort of similar, but still I think they look well. I think they're much cleaner, at least for the fonts. And then we have the problem section. So this is an interesting finding that I think we can learn from. For example, on our custom version, this section is still in dark mode, right? It's still not in light mode, and I think that is where this philosophy, for example, on this design.md file, you can look at the visual theme and atmosphere. So I think this is an important missing part that wasn't part of our design.md file. So for example, if you look at our design.md file, we talked about design philosophy, right? We are saying light first, backgrounds are predominantly white or warm off-white, dark section are used sparingly for maximum contrast impact. So I think that is why it tried to create two sections in dark mode, right? But in this file we have for example, if we go to the design.md file, in the visual themes and atmosphere we strictly said near white canvas, which is I think a better representation of 11 Labs design. So this is, I think, on custom.design.md file, the visual theme atmosphere is a very important part that you need to include it even in your custom design.md file, and that is why it matched even the problem section in light mode. And I think the design is definitely looking a lot better, but it still kept those 3D looking icon, which I don't like that much, but I think for now it looks okay, because in the design system, in the design file itself, there's no specific command saying don't use any emoji that we originally had in our design system, the one that we custom built. So for example, in the what not to do, we specifically said never build custom emoji component, never use Lucid React or Hero icon or any other icon package, strictly use Iconify React, right? So now let's look at the next section. By the way, this is how it was looking in the original design, so I think this looks better. And then we have the how it works section in light mode, but I think the layout is almost the same, but the previous layout is definitely worse. So I think this section also looks better and more closer to how 11 Labs design. And the cards, they're still using this 3D or really vibrant emojis that I don't like, but I think that's fine. And this was the original section. So I think the original section was not that far off, but with really bad gradients, and these cards are looking better as well. And then you have the browse categories. This was before and this is after, which I think looks good, definitely better and more of a light mode vibe, and also sort of like cleaner look that 11 Labs have in their UI. Like if you can look at the cards, this is not exactly the same looking cards, but still much better. And this is the cards I think we generated with our own design. So they're looking sort of similar. For example, if you look at these two, this was the pre-built design.md file, and this is our custom design.md file, one-shotted by the way on both cases. So this is how it looks, and this is how it looks. So I think it has more of our branding colors incorporated. In this case, we did not talk about any brand color. Like for example, we did not define that this is our brand color, so it did not use any of our brand colors. And then we have the feature agent. This is the cards. I think this is looking nice. I think it looks actually better than our custom built version, right? I think it's too colorful and a little bit distracting, but in here it looks much cleaner and very easy. This is like our main action, and this is our original cards. As you can see, this cartoonish looking cards. This is definitely not good, but I think I like this card a lot, and this one-shotted first prompt, and this is the improvement that we got. And next we have the creator spotlight. This is looking really good. I think this is amazing design. Like you can see the colors and the typography and the spacing, everything is like, I think this is definitely a great design. You can't really complain a design about this. And this was on our custom design created in black. So I think this is where that environment and visual theme and atmosphere comes in to play. We need to make sure we are defining the visual theme atmosphere. This is something that we're missing. And then we have the integrations. This is also looking good, clean. This was the original design, and this is the new design. I think this is better, and this was our design. I like this design as well, but I think this incorporated the Eleven Labs aesthetics more, so I'm gonna give it a +1 for this as well. And don't take our word for it, like the review section, again the cards are looking really good, much on brand. And for our cards, this is good as well. This is flat, and this was the original cards. The original cards were not that bad, but like I said, you can see these are a lot vibrant, and the spacing and stuff like that are not that consistent. Like this card is overlapping into another on the top, and these cards are much aligned, and I think the layout is great. And the pricing section, again cleaner, although it could not fit the cards. It did not make the cards equal, just like very simple fix. And this was the original cards. Again, same issues, did not fix it. And this was our custom cards. I think our custom cards looking much better. I think this looks much highlighted, like the custom pricing section definitely looking much better in my eyes than the one that both generated. It's much simpler, but I think this is not bad either. Then you have the FAQ section. FAQ section is looking good as well. This was the original FAQ section, obviously, but it applied the branding and this elevation or shadows correctly. And this is our custom FAQ section, much more flatter, no outline or elevation at all or shadows. So I think both of these two sections looking good, but definitely if I was talking about Eleven Labs specific branding, I would definitely pick this one. I think this is better. And then you have the final CTA section, start building smarter work for today. This was the original site's final CTA section, and this is our final CTA section. I do not like it that much because I feel like it also has too much color in the end. So I think I definitely prefer this one. So this design.md, this pre-built design.md file generated a very good looking design. For creator, the toggles are looking correct as well, and the footer is much cleaner as well. And this is just referencing that design.md file. We didn't do anything else by ourselves, right? So I think this is definitely looking a lot more better than the original AI slop version. And our custom design.md file also generated good design, but I think in terms of consistent branding, this design.md file is much better than ours. It's much better because it incorporated the branding information from Eleven Labs in a much more cohesive way than ours. We can definitely improve this design by giving much better prompts or more detailed instructions saying do not use this type of emojis or stuff like that based on the way we like our design. That is also what this website is saying, like this is just a base. You need to improve the design based on the way you want your product to look like. So if we look at our design.md file that we generated with the screenshots previous video, it also has the design philosophy, but it's not describing the atmosphere in much greater detail as it does in here. So I think this is like the main findings of this video, that we need to make sure the visual theme atmosphere is explained in a much more detailed way. We're just giving the key principles, we're not giving it the vibe of the design, right? That's what it's missing in the design system that we built in the previous video. And the color palette and roles, I think those are sort of similar. I think those are like we are defining them here as well. Usage, all of this are sort of similar. Then we have the typography, we also define that here. So I think those are similar as well. Then we have the component styling, we did define those, like the border radius, buttons, and input forms, navigation. We did also define those here as well, I think. Yeah, we defined the cards, we also defined about the icons. And they are talking about layout principles. We did talk about layout principle as well, I think. Yeah, we talked about grids. They also talked about layout. We also talked about shadows. They also did that as well. We also defined don'ts. They also did that as well. With pattern, FAQ section, pricing section, form elements. So all the other things I think that we defined was also defined in their design.md file. Only thing that we are missing is the atmosphere and the feel of the design. That is their first section. So when I look at this design that we generated using like a single liner, install the design.md file, and then just referenced it on the prompt, and Claude went ahead and generated this type of cohesive design. So this definitely tells me that this is the right way to build products, at least get good designs from the get-go, rather than trying to scaffold through different things. So if you're trying to build something quickly without trying to go through different products, researching them, taking screenshot, and formalizing and concentrating all of those design findings into one single design.md file, then I think this is a very good start. They have 66 websites, right? Like if you want to build something that looks a little bit like Stripe, you can go ahead and quickly grab this file. Then your starting point of your project will look a lot like Stripe. Definitely not exactly like Stripe. You have to put a lot of effort for that, but from the beginning you will get a consistent style that is much more cohesive. And if you have the time, I would definitely recommend you to create your custom design.md file. Take a lot of inspiration, spend a lot of time on your design.md file. For example, our custom design.md file, I just created it on a single go. I didn't improve anything. I didn't go for any iteration. I created it so that we would understand how to actually create your custom design.md file. So definitely try to use this tool and let me know how that goes. And I'll see you in the next one.